to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney. Hello? Oh, nothing more creepier than a freaking shaft. Hello? What's up, Mob Crew? Let me get this put up here. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. I cover murder, mystery to the paranormal. And today I've got a special guest, Steve. We'll introduce him in just a minute. And also we're going to be talking about Delphi. What can we learn from some of this stuff that's came out with the sketches? And also, there's a few updates from News Nation. They're talking about Ron Logan, so we'll kind of go over that. Steve, who I'll introduce here in just a minute, he also did some experiments that relate to this Ron Logan thing. So we'll get into that in a little bit because they're bringing him back up in this warrant. It's kind of wild. So before I get started real quick, I have a new affiliate for my channel. It's called Liquid IV. I'm going to play their little ad real quick, and then we'll get started. What's up, Mob Crew? How would you like to feel better about what you put into your body? This all-new product called Liquid IV is taking hydration to the next level. Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier is a great-tasting daily electrolyte drink mix that utilizes the breakthrough science of cellular transport technology to deliver hydration to your bloodstream faster and more efficiently than water alone. Just add the non-GMO electrolyte powder to your water and let CTT do the rest. It comes in tons of different flavors like strawberry, grape, lemon, lime, and much more. Just add the powder to water and get the hydration your body deserves. They have powder for energy, hydration, and even one to help you sleep better. If you'd like to learn more or purchase some, go to this link down in the description of this video. And if you use the code THEMOBCREW during your checkout, you can save up to 20% on your next order. Hydrate now with Liquid IV. Thank you. Gotta put my, all right. So shout out to Liquid IV. They sent me out some samples, really awesome to work with. So if you guys are curious, and I can fix my mic, you guys, there's a link in the description. It takes you right to the website, and it automatically puts the Mob Crew code in there. So if you do buy something, you don't even have to put the code in. It's if you use the link in the description. Okay, before we introduce Steve, of course, we like to feature the missing. So let me quickly get that. So today we've got Lauren Gutierrez, missing since October 27th. She is 14 years old. Lauren was last seen on Thursday, October 27th at approximately 11 p.m. around 1200 block of Harvey Road, College Station in Brazos. It is believed that Lauren is with person or persons unrelated to her more than 3 years older, and that she is in danger of SA, death, or serious bodily injury. So that is in Texas. If you have any tips, please call 911 or your local law enforcement. And we've got one more. This is a special request. This is Jance Wesley Barilia, missing since the 1st of June of this year. He is 40 years old. He is 6'4", 140 pounds, brown hazel eyes, salt and pepper hair. It says Jance was diagnosed with a brain tumor in May. It's terrible. He is very tall, 6'4", friendly, and easy to approach. If you see Jance or have any tips, please call 970-498-5100. All right, so close that. And so now I'm going to introduce I can get my mouse in the right spot, the co-host for today. Welcome, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Doing fine, sir. And you?
Good. I was always honored to have you on here. For those that might be new to you, do you want to give just a little bit of your background?
Sure. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. Worked all parts of law enforcement. Started off in the jail, worked road, went into investigations, became a state certified crime scene technician, and worked crime scenes from everything from simple thefts, burglaries, up to homicides. Then after I retired, I decided to become an ambassador for law enforcement in this true crime world that everyone has. And so I created my channel, which has made me partner up with you a few times.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the future. I saw something. Seattle Ray says, what happens when it comes to light that RA is not the murderer? Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So I agree with that. But they felt pretty confident with putting those charges on him real early on. I think they found something that he had in the house to really feel confident. What do you think, Steve?
Well, as it's been stated by Carter on several occasions, that they have probable cause to charge him with murder. And It's within that probable cause affidavit, which we don't currently have, but that will explain a lot when that becomes unsealed.
Right. But I agree. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. So I can understand that. Okay. So just a quick recap. So Richard Allen, who's 50 years old, they arrested him on October 26th and then charged him 2 days later with 2 counts of murder. He is 50 years old now. He would have been, I believe, 44 because his birthday is in September. So he'd been 44 at the time of the murders. He has short, dark brown hair, blue eyes, 180 pounds, and he's got facial goatee and mustache. His address is 5 minutes away from the Monon High Bridge. He lived at that residence, which is right there, since 2006, which is about 16 years he's been living in Delphi. He is, from what it looks like, he is a smoker. I noticed this picture here. He's got a pack of smokes sitting next to him, and we've heard from a couple of people that that have been at the bar with him. Said he, and I believe a fellow co-employee said that he is an avid smoker. And I actually just got a new photo sent to me. If I get a chance, I'll find it. It does show him smoking. Reason why that's relevant is because they did find the cigarette butts on the February 14th or 15th. It says 15th on the scanner here, just after they recovered the bodies. So that's interesting. It makes me wonder if that was, came from him. Okay, so we just went over that. Some of the stuff they took away was 2 bundles of dark cloth or clothing, a shoebox, a Macy's shopping bag, flash photography of items in the shed. They were also digging around the shed, and then a vehicle, which you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner, which is interesting because when I looked up his background, it showed that he had a silver Dodge Ram. So I'm kind of curious what happened with that, or maybe that's the wife's. But looks like they took this dark SUV away, which I'm not sure if it's this one because it certainly looks similar to this one right here. You know, because this looks like it's parked at the neighbor's. But moving on here. Hey, Hemo Jim. Hey, Chris. Finally get to see you live. It's been a while. Thanks for all you do. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much, Emo, for the $50. Thank you, buddy, so much. It's good to see you too. He's in the UK, right? And so he's kind of in a different time zone. So,
thank you.
And just quick, and then of course, so he worked at the CVS store, which is just 5 minutes down the road, and even had a couple encounters with the family members of the deceased. Which is sad because they went to get their funeral photos, copies of them, and he was the one that actually helped them and then didn't charge him. So they actually ran into him at the CVS store, which is apparently the only local pharmacy around. So small town, it's so weird because I could go 5-10 minutes and there'd be at least 5 or 10, well, maybe not that many, but there's so many pharmacies around. It's weird to, I've never been from a small town. You?
Oh, yes. I've lived in a small town all my life.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you kind of understand the whole small town kind of thing going. Tom says, I think the non-secular items at the crime scene was the killer having instant remorse. And this is why Doug says, we think you have a little bit of conscience left. I agree. We've heard that, he picked up drinking, and now this is just rumors, of course, and then possible mental institution, but those, we don't know for sure. But thank you so much for the $10, buddy. And of course, here he is sitting in front of the sketch at the bar, at JC's bar. And this is one of the main points of today's show is kind of what can we learn from the sketches? Because, for the public to help in this situation is looking at the sketches. And, when they first released the one sketch, everything was okay. But then 2 years later, in 2019, they released another sketch, but a much younger guy. And we were talking about this before the show, where if it was the other way around, where you had a kind of a younger guy sketch and then maybe an age progression or an older sketch, it would kind of make sense with the timeline.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the most confusing things that they did when they came out with these sketches. And I think they actually advised that the younger sketch was made prior to the older sketch, but they just
right.
Whatever strategy they chose to go the other route. And what was the opinions of the officers that were able to get their line of investigations ahead of the others. And we don't know all the details of what that strategy is, but we will.
Jim, I live in San Diego. That's so weird. I thought you said you lived in the UK. Oh, that's what you get when you're talking to 50 people a day on emails and stuff. I apologize, Jim. I won't forget that now. But yeah, because I have a lot of people, in UK and in Europe, and so. But thank you so much for the $10. Yeah, I won't forget that. So yeah, so what can we learn from this experience? This is kind of the point of today's show, and plus we do have some updates as far as Delphi as well. One of those is I found out as far as cameras being in the courtroom, because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, is this going to be televised? And I do kind of have an answer for you because that's something they looked into today or yesterday, I believe. And so we'll play that towards the end, along with the whole Ron Logan debacle that just kind of the can of worms that they opened up last night. Let me get caught up on the. Okay. So anyway, because now we have social media, we have back then it was just with composite sketches and posters, you would hand them out, put these posters out. But now with the internet, you can put the QR code. And now with this particular situation where you've got two sketches, but people always kind of thought the biggest problem was is when these came out, they didn't really explain it that well in the beginning. I mean, honestly, I don't even know when they actually said they were the same person. I mean, they kind of hinted at it, at 2019 press conference. He says the first sketch will come secondary, but then that just kind of opened up the floodgates for theories. And now is there two people involved? And I've been, part of that, rabbit hole. And I'm sure you probably have.
Oh yeah,
Was this?
I had so much discussion on my shows about when Carter was discussing that, saying, well, you put the two sketches together, throw them away, and you'll have BG. And actually, that turns out to be pretty well the case, that when you do combine aspects of each of the two, you may not get exact, but it's close enough that it would look like a relative of his. And that's all you can, your best hope is to get it where it's something similar, familiar, that jogs someone's memory, because sketches are not pictures, like they say, and it's a hit and miss sometimes.
Yeah, Kelly says he's a short little guy. Yeah, he's definitely shorter. I was thinking he was going to be like 5'8" to 5'10", but looks somewhere between the 5'4", 5'6" range. So I did because like I said, I'm kind of thinking ahead, assuming this is, Richard Allen is BG. He could have help. I will not be surprised if there is an accomplice, either Kegan Kline or somebody else. But I'm just thinking, like I said, down the road, for if another situation like this happens, what can they do? And there's some things I saw on Reddit that kind of went along with what I was thinking. And so I'm going to play just a fast forward video of me, because one of the things I noticed with the young guy sketch is, to me, it looks like a guy with short to medium curly hair. Would you say?
Yes, sir.
I mean, yeah, short to curly hair, which is interesting because normally you wouldn't, if you did have short to curly hair, you usually don't want to cut your hair too short. My mom was a beautician, and so, if you're a person with curly hair, you usually try to, leave it alone. But anyway, the other thing is going back and looking at all the photos of Richard Allen, he's got a shaved head. Not one photo of Richard Allen shows him with long hair. Even his the photo that shows him when he's like in his mid-20s, he has short hair. So it seems like he's had short hair for most of his adult life. So I thought it was interesting. It's like, who did they see to get this kind of hair, or was the witness just not really sure? So anyway, now I'm going to play this video of me, because one of the things I think they should have probably done with this, and I know hindsight's 2020 because now we know what he looks like, but I really think they should have done an age progression, in my opinion, of the young guy sketch. And it's amazing with just a little bit of trimming and adding some facial hair, how much of a difference and how much closer he looks to Richard Allen. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. So just taking off the hair, alone, kind of adds a few years on.
Yeah. You already been a barber.
Yeah, I was doing a little barber with my mouse there. Had to kind of restart a little bit. But it's amazing just having that short hair kind of changes everything. Well, not everything, but actually what changes everything is when you put on the facial.
How long did it take you to do that?
So this took me about an hour. Now this wasn't. Now I did take the mustache, facial hair from the older guy sketch, but this isn't about combining the sketches. This is really just I just used that because just to take the mustache, so I could kind of just quickly add it on there. But this is really just adding facial hair and age progressing of the young guy sketch. And so it's kind of amazing with just a few tweaks of, like I said, shortening the hair, adding that the mustache, full facial hair on. Skip it forward just a little bit. Then I'm going to start adding in the gray here. And so no tweaks to the nose, eyes, the jaw, nothing, just some facial hair and just adding a little bit of gray into it. Let's get forward a little bit. And then I kind of obviously brought in the hairline a little bit since it's short. Steve's worried because this is going to start looking like him.
Yes. I saw that and I said,
I didn't even realize that. It's kind of funny. And what's funny is I am a terrible artist, so I'm kind of surprised with how this
I'll argue that point. You did pretty good. I mean, had you ever done this program before?
Oh yeah, I work with Microsoft Paint with my thumbnails all the time. So, but the main thing, like I said, is just age progression. This isn't. I didn't have his thing. As you can see, I don't have his picture next to me. I'm not trying to recreate Richard Allen. I'm just literally adding the facial and just a little bit of gray. And then the only other thing that I add on here, and you'll see it here in a minute, I'll kind of skip it a little bit, is a little bit of crow's feet. And pretty much we have the sketch. Now I did add the blue in. I should have left that out, but go a little bit more. Okay, so then I add the crow's feet in there. And then just a little bit of kind of a wrinkle. Be so much easier with my hand. It's hard with the mouse. Then we just kind of add the side by side.
Your chat's hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, his nose and mouth are together. I know. Yeah, with that one, whoever just said that, I know. I think they're way too close together. Yeah, I agree with the sketch. That caused so many problems with doing side by sides. I missed emo gems. Sorry, buddy. This is okay. Oops. Oh, now it's blocking it. This is what I was saying. He has never had long hair in any of his pictures I've seen, even when he was younger. Yeah, I have not seen one picture with him with hair longer than what he's got. All of his pictures, even it continues to be like new pictures coming out each day, and they're all with him with the very short hair. So it makes me wonder, was the young guy sketch, who could that have been? Just somebody else? Just makes me wonder. So this will add into my second thing here. So thank you so much for the $20. So what I'm trying to get at is, as far as, since it's the internet and what can we learn from this? And I wish this was better quality, but here's the missing. They did an age progression, and they did find her. And I mean, the age progression is pretty spot on. Unfortunately, it's not the best resolution. There's no good resolution photo, unfortunately. But moving on here. So this is just kind of the thing is, now that we have social media and they could add QR codes to these posters, we can add attachments and we can start doing, age progressions like Interstate Killer, he went on for decades, without being caught. They could have done something similar to that. You could also add attachments where you could have an age progression, or you could have attachments. And then in this case, here's him with facial hair, especially for males, where we have facial hair and we can shave at any time. So I think, it wouldn't hurt to be able to see some, extra side by sides with the original and with facial hair. It wouldn't be hard to just have a default of both.
Good job.
Thank you. Like I said, there's a little bit more, and then I'm just gonna get because you kind of have, and then this is, I gotta give some credit to the Reddit user. I forget his name, but this is, I think another big one is to go along with the attachments of the original sketch, is to have some kind of like rating system from the witness, just on some of the main features like hair, nose, jawline, ears, and how, because we've talked about this before many times, our memory, we usually pick out one thing from somebody that's so much like a stranger. It's like, oh, that's that big nose guy, that's the cauliflower ear guy, that's the guy with the part in the middle. There's usually one thing that always kind of sticks out when it comes to trying to recognize faces. And so I thought it would be interesting if they would add some kind of rating system. The witness was 90% sure that the guy had a long nose, 20% sure about the hair, and that would make sense. So not everybody's relying on this minted curly hair and, kind of looking for, like I said, someone that looks like a handsome guy.
Yeah, whenever they do those sketches, and in law enforcement, I've seen thousands of them. And like I said, sometimes they look like relatives, and they say this is the best that I recall. And sometimes it's not actually of the suspect. It may be just someone they met, a person of interest sometimes. But in this case, he resembles enough of a bridge guy. So a lot of people, and there's a lot of people argue both ways. Some people say it looked nothing like Allen, which is at the end of the day in court, the sketches really won't matter. It's going to be that video. It's going to be that audio. It's going to be whatever they found at the crime scene, and what they found at his home is what's going to close and end this case. But the sketches are important because it can drive you down an avenue to locate a suspect very quickly. And that's what I believe that their strategy was in the beginning. It was to get those initial tips quick. And then they were out there, and once they were out there, they stayed out there.
Yeah. So, like I said, why this is just so important to me is because this is mainly how the public's supposed to help. It's it's the sketch. This is how we're, now, they're sleuthing, but, really they want us, at least especially for the locals, to be familiarized with the sketches. But I think it wouldn't hurt to have, you have the sketch, but then with social media or the internet, you can have attachments to where you can see additional stats, or, say an age progression in this case, because, you've got a young guy and an older guy, and they still kind of think he's older, but could appear younger. And
you just gave me an idea. We'll get on. Don't let me forget to remind you of your idea you just gave me at the end of the show.
Okay, the idea I gave you. All right. But I have no idea what it is, so I hope you don't forget it.
Yeah, so just remind me. I'm writing it down now.
Okay, I hope you do, because I'll have no idea what you're talking about. Tom says, I believe probable cause affidavit will be released once they make all the arrests. yeah, they're really fighting to have that released. I know November 22nd, if you guys don't know already, that is the date when they're going to have the hearing about the affidavit. I feel like it'll probably be released, but redacted to some degree. Something I want to see. Oh, and then at the bottom right here, they could also have additional notes where, of course, this one was the witness believes eyes are not blue, which actually ended up being completely wrong.
Well, now some of those things could be addressed if he went there with the purpose of misguiding or creating a false. You got wigs, you got contacts.
Disguise, sure.
Yeah. I mean, he could disguise himself to any level. He came with a face mask. He may have changed other aspects of his appearance also. We just don't know yet.
Yeah. Great job, Chris. Age progression. You did kind of really looks like him. Wait until you see the hat. I'm not done with this. Thank you so much, Emo. And thank you so much, Tom, for the $5. You guys are so awesome. Okay, I'm just reading the chat here. So now, also to add on to this whole, sketch is to add on accessories, and that hat. And like I said, I really didn't add. This isn't really more of. This is really just supposed to be the facial hair, but I did kind of leave some of the gray in. But just adding accessories and or the facial hair, but kind of like a Mr. Potato Head, but just basic stuff like an accessory like a hat, and then especially with males, we have facial hair and we can shave in an instant, and so there's going to be two looks, and so I think it wouldn't hurt down the road to maybe have something where they can, do that with these composite sketches, is to kind of have different looks at them without changing the core concept.
Good job. The hat really does. But like,
yeah, it's a little.
It still looks younger. It still looks a little bit younger than the actual. But
yeah, like I said, I didn't do the gray. It's slightly in there. But yeah, I this was really just supposed to be the young guy sketch with facial hair and then an accessory. And well, I guess I do have the crow's feet in there, so I guess that would be age progression. But still, yeah, it's kind of creepy, actually.
It is.
But yeah, like I said, I just think it wouldn't hurt to learn from some of this stuff, these cases that are getting solved. What how can they improve as a community and law enforcement? I mean, now that we have social media and internet, we can add all these extra attachments, because we can scan those QR codes that allow us to see these extra stats or notes by the witness. I think could go a long way, because this case, when it comes to the two sketches, was a disaster.
It was.
I mean, it was a disaster until Doug Carter came out at the very end and said, if you put these two sketches together, you'll reveal the killer. But that's 5 years too late. Even though, I mean, we kind of assumed for the most part that they were the same. Obviously, they more or less hinted it was the same person, but they never really, until Doug Carter had that interview. I still think a lot of people were confused, and that's where the public's supposed to help. So that's really is the point of the show, at least this first part of the show, is how can we learn from this, and what can we do? So thank you guys. Like I said, it's just it was just weird. I was just kind of playing around, and I'm just like, it was amazing how much just throwing a little bit of facial hair and putting a little gray in, and it's like, oh wow. I mean, it's not mirror image of him, but it's pretty darn close.
You get more done than playing around than some people do working. So,
yeah.
Or some of the people I work with and me, sometimes I enjoy watching your experiments, your controls. Extremely educational. I enjoy them.
I appreciate you. So here's just kind of an example. I think the biggest problem with this is the sketch was right on with the lazy eye, but the hair made him look like he was an 80-year-old man. And
Yes.
so now obviously this is a colored sketch. We don't really. Was that something that they kind of played around with? Maybe you can answer this. Is it depend on the artist when it comes to color, or
All the sketches that we ever dealt with, they was always black and white. This color stuff, I never, because that's another element that if you're off on that, you can be so misleading, and everything that you're off just a little bit can just, drive people that this is it. And allows those suspects to maybe squeak by just because you have a little bit of a false memory or a misleading aspect of it and you had no intent to do that, but colorations, everything carries from your best memory, and sometimes you can be mistaken.
yeah.
Eyewitnesses are extremely, in the conviction part of it, there used to be such, because we don't have, in the older days, of course, you didn't have the modern technologies that we have now, but
Right.
eyewitnesses have led to a lot of wrongful convictions.
Yeah. So I hope this doesn't scare you guys. This was I was in a rush and I was just trying to take away the facial hair and I kind of realized it's, whoever whipped up the sketch. I mean, it's not bad, but like I said, it's really hard to take away the facial hair. And when it's black and white, I can easily tweak it. But when it's colored, I had problems. So hopefully this doesn't give you nightmares. But anyway, I just think it wouldn't hurt for down the road, especially for males, to see something with facial hair and without. It wouldn't hurt. Thank you so much, Lou Bailey, for the $5 super sticker and supporting the channel. That's so awesome. And we got one more, Renee Patton. Thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. You're so awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. One more thing to go on along with the stats. And like I said, we got some updates with Richard Allen we'll get into here in just a minute. So let me hide this real quick. Sorry. So here's a sketch of Ted Bundy. The thing that sticks out to me is the part in the hair, which is, about in the same spot. And this would be another perfect example of where you could have some stats to go along with. They're 100% sure that this guy had a part in his hair. I think that would be huge. They were 80% sure about thick eyebrows. They don't really remember the nose, or 20%. The nose was really just a fill-in. And so that would kind of help the public, focus more attention on the hair and the part, which was not bad.
Yeah, they did well. And I think there was people that identified him in newspapers but they said, well, no, it can't be him. And because he's so, everybody knew him.
Yeah, it's so likable. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll I did see a question in there too. Miss Dog Lover, someone in the chat just made a good point. Dilated pupils will make the eyes look darker. Substances could do that. Ooh. Yeah, and you always hear that when people are like killing or hunting, that their eyes go dark. Is that something from dilated pupils? Is that something that you learn about in law enforcement as far as like killers?
No, I've never paid much attention to it, and I will look that up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but yeah, that is a great point. Because I remember, OJ, Nicole saying that his eyes would just go completely dark, when she was afraid that, he was going to, when he was beating her up. And unfortunately, he did end up taking it that far. But yeah, you do hear that a lot. And maybe that's why his eyes weren't blue that day. That's a great point. Okay, so let's quickly do the answer for the cameras allowed in the courtroom, because I'm sure everybody's kind of dying to know what the answer is, because it's kind of a unique situation. Let's see. So let me remove that. Let me remove that. And let's find that. It's going to be today's show. Okay, here it is.
It's no secret that our community, and frankly the world, has been absolutely rocked by the news of the arrest of Richard Allen. By this point, we all know the Delphi Murders case pretty well, unfortunately. The bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German were found near an abandoned railroad track in 2017. But for years, authorities have remained really tight-lipped on the facts surrounding this case. To this day, we still don't know how Abby and Libby were killed. We don't know how their bodies were found. The biggest pieces of information, at least since 2017, really came during a 2019 press conference when police released new suspect photos and addressed the person they thought killed Abby and Libby directly, who came to be known as Bridge Guy.
Skip this just a little bit. This kind of okay, here we go.
By authorities on different aspects of these new developments that have unfolded since the arrest of Richard Allen. So we're going to try and answer some of those right now. The biggest questions we've gotten recently surrounding this entire situation is why we, as a news station, are pushing for the probable cause affidavit to be made public in this case.
The probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court.
Probable cause is a requirement found in the Fourth Amendment, and it has to be met before police make an arrest or before they conduct a search warrant. We get and request probable cause affidavits as journalists all the time, and they're crucial because not only do they lay out why an arrest was made and give insight into why a person in our community no longer walks among us as a free person, but they're public documents, so it's transparent why police are taking a person into custody. But a judge sealed the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of Richard Allen, and it's a really rare move that officials would charge someone with 2 counts of murder in such a high-profile case without releasing the reason why. It's something a lot of experts didn't anticipate.
So I just pause it there so we can kind of talk about it. But yeah, your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, this case has been so confusing since the get-go, but I've been writing notes and taking notes on everything that this thing is going to be is what they recover from that residence. And we'll get into that in a few, but what they said they took from that house. But it's just been dragging on way too long. And what's about to happen with YouTube and the way they're bringing other information in, it's going to have a definite effect on the case.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, they're going to come up to the answer here about the cameras allowed.
I can't think of ever hearing of a probable cause affidavit being held 30 days after an arrest was made.
Another big question we've been getting is what happened to the judge in this case? On November 3rd, we reported Carroll County Judge Benjamin Diener had recused himself from the Delphi Murders case. In his order, Diener said he has determined that the particular circumstances within the underlying case warrant recusal and dictate that a special judge be appointed in this case. Another question we got, why is everyone saying Richard Allen was charged with murder? Isn't he innocent until he's proven guilty? Well, under US law, Allen is innocent until proven guilty. It's a crucial part of due process. The 14th Amendment states no person shall be deprived of life.
I just want to quickly answer this, Jamie. Oops, God, that always blocks it. Chris, if the bunny sketch looks so off, why doubt first bridge guy sketch is wrong? I thought the bunny sketch was pretty good, especially the hair. I thought what I'm trying to get at is what else can we add as far as notes and statistics, as far as sketches going down the road, in future cases. It's not as much as one sketch or the other. Is if we have especially if we have two sketches, one's older, one's young, but they're supposed to be the same person, but they feel like the guy's kind of older. Maybe with the young guy sketch, they should have done an age progression. That's kind of what my point there. And then just what can we learn from sketches and how can we kind of evolve and kind of do like a Mr. Potato Head where we can kind of see what, especially with males, what sketches would look like. If it's a male that has facial hair on, they could do one without the facial hair, without changing anything else. And that way, you get kind of a cover all angles. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, I think the bunny sketch was actually pretty good.
Liberty or property without due process of law. That usually refers to fair procedures. But Allen's been charged with 2 counts of murder, and he has been arrested, but he hasn't been convicted. Another question, do police think Richard Allen is the man who committed the murders? Yes, he's charged with 2 counts of murder and has been arrested. Again, the probable cause hasn't been released, so we don't know specifically why. But Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter also told our reporter Emily Longnecker that straight up when she asked him a similar question.
Are you confident this is your guy?
The judge signed the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of Richard Allen for 2 counts of murder. Yes.
Do you think there are other people involved?
I'm not going to go there.
Our final most asked question, will Allen's trial be televised? No, it will not. A rule in the Indiana Code of Judicial Conduct.
Okay, so it comes up fast, but now they're going to explain something. So they say no cameras in the courtroom, but there's a catch. So let me get this real quick and then we'll play the rest. I think the judge being incompetent will affect his next election. And in a small town, that's a big deal. I probably tend to agree. Yeah, he looked like he was definitely way over his head and hit the panic mode real hard. Kind of feel bad for him. But yeah, you have to kind of step up to the plate. So anyway, all right, moving on with the answer. So they say no because I guess in Indiana, God, they say no to cameras in the courtroom, but
Conduct Rule 2.17 prohibits judges from allowing court proceedings to be broadcast. Interestingly enough, though, a pilot program that launched in November 2021 allowed 5 counties in Indiana to broadcast court proceedings. Judges were at their discretion if they wanted to allow them to be broadcast or not, and Allen County was one of the counties involved in that project. Remember, Allen County's where Special Judge Fran Gull, who's now being called on to hear Richard Allen's case, was pulled from. At this point, we don't know if the actual case will be heard in Allen County, but it's interesting to think about how that pilot project could have possibly impacted Allen's trial if it hadn't stopped on March 31st of this year. Of course, this situation is one that will continue to unfold. If you have any ongoing questions, please leave a comment. We'll answer it as best we can. We'll also be streaming an in-depth special on Saturday.
So did you catch that? That it kind of depends on where the venue's going to be at.
Yes. Yeah, because they haven't had to change the venue hearing yet. And so that judge may go to Carroll County and have the hearings there. And the hearing will be there to determine if there will be a change of venue.
Interesting. And they said Miami would be one of them. Did they mention Carroll?
Well, Delphi is in Carroll, so that's the originating.
Right. Let me play that last little bit real quick.
Did Allen's trial if it hadn't stopped on March 31st of this year. Of course, this situation is one that will continue to unfold. If you have any ongoing...
Oops.
At this point, we don't know if the actual case will be heard in Allen County, but it's interesting to think about how that pilot project could have possibly impacted Allen's trial if it hadn't stopped on March 31st of this year. Of course, the situation is one that will continue. Judges were at their discretion if they wanted to allow them.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So right now, I guess it kind of depends on where the venue is going to be at. But yeah, it's a little disappointing with just how big of a profile case this is. I think a lot of people are anticipating it would be televised. So I'll have to look into that some more as well.
And we're looking, when this thing gets to court, we're still looking probably almost 2 years out.
Yeah,
There's nothing going to be fast tracked about this case.
sure.
There's going to be so many hearings, so much evidence. I mean, we're talking about not a case that occurred last month or a year ago. We're talking about something that happened almost 6 years. And the amount of data that's in those case files is going to be, by the time they get all that sorted through, because Carter even said that he was going to have to take, I think he said he's going to hire 60 plus people to come in and go through all the tips and the leads and readdress the case, which I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But if that's the case, the defense, they're going to have to do something also.
Yeah. So a question for Steve. When Richard Allen's home was searched, it was said that he had to wait. It said that they had to wait for a search warrant. If the search was from tip-in, wouldn't they have already had a warrant prior to arrival?
Well, it depends how long he was on radar. If it's something that just came to that day, that for whatever reason, an officer or someone was on scene and saw something, or if a tip came in within a day or two of them going to the scene, they may not have that paperwork in order. And so it depends. When, last night they were talking about 11 hours. Did it take 11 hours to write the warrant, or did it take 11 hours to search the residence? And regardless, 11 hours, I don't know how they even released that residence in a day or two. I mean, you're talking about a case that's 5 years old. Did you go straight in there and find something so convincing and of such evidential value that you took it and that was it? I mean, there's a lot of ways to read this, and that if they're in and out of there in 11 hours, that means something. But and hopefully they weren't rushed, and hopefully they did a adequate job.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking up something on the side here to see. Okay, so Allen County is up northeast. Interesting. Okay. So that's where Allen County is. So that's kind of closer to the Peru, because here you got Peru. Delphi is down over here.
Yeah, it's already over. It's all the way over to the state line. It's an hour and a half away from Delphi. I think I looked it up. I had it up on MapQuest last night, I believe.
Yeah. So, yeah, there could be possible that the camera's in a courtroom, depending on where, if it stays in Allen County. It sounds like they did have a pilot program, but I guess we'll find out more down the road. But it's a possibility. Get caught up in chat here, and then we'll move on to Ron Logan. This poor guy. Steve, it has been reported by the media that it took 11 plus hours to search the property. That is correct.
I think, and like I said, that seems short to me. But then again, I don't know. I don't know what they were looking for. I don't know what was in the search warrant. Was the search warrant so narrow that they only put certain specific things that they had seen or identified, or did they have a broad warrant such as what was with Ron Logan? Because Ron Logan was Katie bar the door. They had everything from electronic devices to blood, hair, fibers, and it takes a long time to process a scene and collect all that evidence. It's not like a TV show where you can go in there in 43 minutes and collect 20 items. A lot of these items, it's going to take 20, 30 minutes or an hour to log it, photograph it, bag it, seal it, package it, and move it. And as you move through a house, it's extremely difficult and takes a lot of time. I'm impressed if they did a really good job and they did it in 11 hours. That's impressive.
Yeah. It does seem like a long time, but like you said, yeah, it's not like the TV.
Yeah, it seems short to me, 11 hours. I mean, I wouldn't have thought they'd been out there in 3 days.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Emo says, "Hey, Chris, I need to head to see my mom." Hey, yeah, no, you only have one. So, yeah, I totally understand that. We'll finish watching later tonight. Keep doing the awesome job you're doing. Take care, Steve. Good to see you again. Thank you so much, Emo. Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, Emo's been with me for almost near the beginning, I believe. So it's an honor. Thank you so much for the $10. Okay. One last thing. Yeah, 1,000 watching. If we can get over 300 to 400 likes, we can move up. That'd be awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move over to this new thing with the Ron Logan, which, oh, God, they're opening up a can of worms with this.
Yeah, only what does a search warrant give you an access to? Search warrant, whenever you go in there and you invade a person's, not invade, but you get permission through the courts to go into someone else's privacy and remove items that they own. And for the court system is that just like with a Ron Logan search warrant, which is something that is a valuable tool that anyone and everyone can go out there and find. And you'll see that it's very specific. It tells you the residence, it gives you an address, it gives you what they're looking for, and what can be seized. If it's not listed in that search warrant, then you ain't going to get it. And if you do get it, it can become part of the poison tree, which means you're not going to get it into court. And so a lot of times you'll see these search warrants that will just be overkill. They'll have where they go in there and they absolutely, from the curtilage, outbuildings, property of, wood lines, whatever, and they can become quite lengthy. And Ron Logan's was a pretty lengthy search warrant, but it was very specific what they were looking for. And I would imagine that the search warrant for the Allen residence would have been, a lot of the wording would have been the same. They would have been looking for the same thing because it's the same investigation. If you're looking for certain items 5 years prior to, you're going to be looking for those items 5 years later, exact same stuff, for the fact that nothing's changed. If what's true in that Ron Logan search warrant is true, it's going to stay true 5 years later. Now, if it doesn't, then there's going to be some court issues on that.
Sure. Okay. Now on to this Ron Logan. This was released.
And now Richard Allen, the man charged.
So this was released last night. Yeah, I think last night. And they bring on a PI Jensen, who I really admire because he's I don't know where he's done a lot of stuff based out here in Utah, which is he kind of helped with the newlywed couple right after the Gabby Tito thing kind of took off, and a couple others. But yeah, I think he's highly respectable, but he's kind of jumping on this Ron Logan thing. And if you guys haven't seen this is kind of wild. They're basically saying that they feel like the accomplice, instead of being Kegan Kline, is Ron Logan. I can't believe it. And I mean, they're set on it. So I'm going to play this for you guys. I'm kind of blown away.
Charged early profile murders of 2 teenage girls, Abby Williams and Libby German. The 2 best friends were killed in 2017 as they were walking on a trail in
Skip it
Delphi,
forward just a
Indiana.
little bit here.
Charged, and he died. And
Okay.
by search warrant obtained by News Nation, a special agent stated there is probable cause to believe that Logan has committed the crime of murder, and evidence of that could be found on his property. Logan, however, was never charged, and he died in 2020. Joining us now to break down the latest information and provide some context here is former FBI agent Jennifer Coffendorfer, investigative producer and author Chris Todd, and private investigator Jason Jensen. Thank you so much all for being here. And Jennifer, I do want to start with you. Former FBI agent Nicole Robertson swore under oath that she believes evidence of a homicide was located at the residence of Ronald Logan, and the girls were found on his property. Why was he never arrested?
He wasn't arrested basically because the individuals who were in charge of the investigation felt he was too old to have committed a crime like this. And so much of the information and the probable cause developed was sort of brushed aside. Also, keep in mind that affidavit was not served until a month after the crime was committed. This was huge because it allowed for Mr. Logan, if he did commit this crime, to remove, dispose of, clean evidence that could have otherwise linked him to the crime. So those two.
So just to kind of, because we'll have to kind of commentate over it. So Ron Logan, the girls, so I'm going to pull this up while we're kind of going back and forth. So the girls were found, you know, they were last seen obviously on the bridge here. And they were right at the end, and the BG guy caught up with them, platform 6, told them to go down the hill. We assume they went down this hill. There's some speculation that he maybe was trying to get them over into this area here where it's kind of blocked off by most sides. But it looks like it's possible. I think so. In my opinion, I think the girls, because there's 2 hills to go down. I think during the second hill, they attempted to run. Maybe BG kind of fell or lost his footing, and they thought, you know what, this is the time to run. And so they ran across the creek. Unfortunately, maybe one of the girls fell behind. And, you know, because they said that the girls were heroes and that they stuck together and wouldn't leave each other behind. And unfortunately, maybe he caught up to one of them. I'm assuming he probably, you know, other than having a bladed weapon, I'm pretty sure he probably had a weapon. And this is just assuming there's one person. You know, there could be 2 people there. But anyway, the girls sadly would be found on the property about right here. This is just approximate 50 feet from the Deer Creek. But this was Ron Logan's property. Ron Logan lives here. He has since passed. But this is who they're talking about, is Ron Logan. He is, was he in his 70s at the time of the murder? And they just didn't feel like, even though he dressed kind of like BG, but, you know, locals say that's how people dress anyway, you know, coat, jeans. It's kind of just typical for that area to wear that kind of outfit. But anyway, switch it back over here. Oh, Tom, it would be insane if they found clothes that were missing from the scene. Yeah, so apparently there was undergarment and a sock missing, I believe, to that effect, as far as from the girls. So yeah, that would be. It sounds like he probably had some trophies.
Factors resulted in him not being charged.
And Jennifer, we'll stick with you for a moment. The FBI discovered that Ronald Logan lied about his alibi, where he was on the night of the girl's murder.
Yeah,
his cousin admitted to lying to the feds. Wouldn't that be enough for an arrest?
Well, that's not enough, but that is a crucial point. Why did he want her to lie? And actually, he asked her to lie well in advance of even that interview. So it's a situation that seemed very calculated and premeditated in terms of covering up what he was or was not involved in concerning their murders.
And Chris, can I turn to you? You just released a book on the Delphi murders. What did you find in your investigation?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And out of protection of all the parties here today, I do want to say that, this is through my investigation, Jason and we opine that Ron Logan killed Abby and Libby. And this is a 4-year investigation also in my relationship with some of the family members that I worked on the case for free. And I brought Jason in to help me, and Jason brought a lot of knowledge to the case that I wanted some outside help on. And I do believe that Ron Logan was responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby.
What is the most compelling piece of evidence that turned your mind about this?
In 2019, I told the families and ISP and Carroll County that I believed it was Ron Logan. And I'm a bit of an outsider. I'm out here in California, so I understand that they didn't want to listen to me. I walked away for about 2 years, and I worked on other cases.
Okay, so we're going to get into his point here in a second. What's up, Captain Howdy? Says, hello, all. As always, it's an honor to have the captain watching the show. Huge fan. He just put out a new video. Please go check that out after the show. It's been covering Delphi for a long time, and I was watching his shows long before I was a YouTuber. So it's always an honor to have you in here. So I'm going to finish what he says, and then I'm going to get your thoughts on this, Steve, because this is something that you kind of investigated because you went out there not too long ago.
When the FBI search warrant was leaked, and no one still knows how that was leaked, I saw Ron Logan's name all over this search warrant, and then it started to corroborate him saying, well, if this FBI agent is pointing out these cell phone pings, this lying about the alibi, he has the same gait, walk, his appearance is the same, his voice is not inconsistent with Bridge Guy. So I do believe that Ron Logan is Bridge Guy.
Can you help lay out the evidence that our viewers may?
Okay, so he talks about some phone pings. Now, you went out there recently, which is crazy because you went out there just before you came back. They were actually investigating Richard Allen. So it's kind of amazing that just before you got back, or as you got back, they kind of broke the case open.
While I was doing my testing, they were doing search warrants, probably actually just over a mile from me. Some of these things.
Yeah.
The timing was just absolutely unreal. As we realized when we came back home, what the law enforcement was looking at and doing, and what we were doing. But just coincidence. But yes, when we went in to do those phone pings, it had been brought to my attention that some of the inconsistencies, and when you look at the Ron Logan search warrant, they give one set of coordinates of where Libby and Abby were bodies. And so when you put those in, it's down there next to the creek. But the rest of the search warrant, when they're talking about Ron Logan and affidavit, they talk about in the area of, near to, close by. If they had the coordinates, why didn't they put the coordinates in there? And so when I went to do my test, I wanted to see how accurate my phone would be. And we used an application that is on a lot of phones, and there's many applications that do it, of Find My Phone. So Mrs. Steve and a couple of people assisting us were at the cemetery. And while we was in the cemetery, I was sitting in the front seat. Mrs. Steve's in the back, and she's hit Find My Phone. Well, it showed her phone, but it said my phone was somewhere within a 5-mile radius. And so, which it couldn't pin, it didn't pin me there. And so when I got out and walked about 30 or 40 feet, she was able to get some relatively close pings. But as I moved and went on elevation changes, sometimes I'd move 50 feet and it would say I had moved 0.2 of a mile Like at one time it would say I was 0.1 miles away, move 20 feet, and then it would say I was 0.3 miles away. So they were dancing. And then it would show that, well, you're somewhere within 5 miles. It had no idea where I was at. And then when I came back and looked at the markers it was giving me, it gave me pins on the map standing out in the middle of the creek, which never occurred. So it was giving me false data. But it was extremely, and I did this in total darkness in the middle of the night. And I mean, those bluffs, and that totally changed my opinion about a lot of the things that could have happened that night. And I mean, it really did. It had a great effect on me looking at it from a law enforcement perspective. But the information I gathered that night, when I went back and I reread the search warrant, I understood when law enforcement or the FBI was saying in the area of, close by, near, that it was just, dancing here and there. Or at least it did on my device. Doesn't mean that's what the FBI meant in their search warrant, but it's just odd that that if you read mine and my report of how I looked at it, of it dancing back and forth, that the descriptors of nearby, close by are the same as what the FBI did 5 years earlier when they wrote that affidavit.
So the pings weren't accurate. They're approximate. They're, and they're kind of taking this as, hey, he's pinging down here kind of by where the bodies. And apparently there was a ping that was by the Freedom Bridge, I believe.
Yes. And I don't know, they could be absolutely 100% correct on some of those pings, but
Sure.
I can't tell you which ones. And
Sure.
And some of the ones that pinged me, were they accurate? Yes, but some of them were just, giving me directions that would be, I'm 300 feet from the car, and then it says that it's going to take you 15 minutes drive time to get to me because I'm somewhere within 5 miles of you, and it made no sense to me. So it was very revealing about that to me. But like I said, that's what happened with me on my device. Doesn't mean that's what happened with the FBI, but with me, that's what happened.
Fixoff says, Steve goes to Delphi for the first time. A few weeks later, an arrest is made. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Yeah. Mrs. Steve got upset with me because we parked at the marathon station. I left her in the parking lot.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. She was out in the parking lot. Little did we know at that time that where Alan lived. And he wasn't on my radar. Alan was never on my radar.
Right,
I'll be
you
the
didn't
first
know.
one to ever tell you that. He was
you?
not on my radar. Now, the neighborhood was on my radar, but he was not on my radar.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll play a little bit more of this train wreck of this whole Ron Logan. Like I said, they are convinced on this News Nation show that they put out last night that Richard Allen's accomplice is Ron Logan. It's a little, it's a little sad to see because he's passed on. He can't defend himself. So we'll play a little bit more of this.
Not know about this case.
Well, this thing's moving 1,000 miles an hour right now. And with the Richard Allen, what I'm hearing right now, which is kind of scaring me, is Richard Allen may very well be the accomplice with Ron Logan. There is no scenario where it's just Richard Allen. So I think the best evidence comes from the FBI, the agent that listed the cell phone pinging in the vicinity of the Monon Bridge at the time of the murders, and also pinging at the bodies at 8 p.m. and 10:15 p.m. So the alibi is big. There were multiple people that came forward that said Ron Logan was violent, that he had threatened to murder people before. And I think the video of the bridge guy itself, the clothing, and I think Jason can touch upon that too. I think it's right in front of us. That's why I named my book Forest for the Trees. They can't see what's right in front of them.
Jason, I do want to bring you in. Can you talk a little bit more about what evidence you found compelling here, and what do you make of the idea that Ron Logan was simply too old to do something like this?
Yeah, the first thing that really caught my attention to this is Bridge Guy was wearing that classic blue jacket we've seen numerous.
I mean, let's just say, if he did kill the girls, why in the hell would he be wearing, because they know they're going to be doing interviews and they're going to be out there. Why would he be wearing the same outfits as BG, unless he's just the biggest, idiot or had nothing to do with it. The guy did create a fake alibi, but that's just because he had a suspended license, and he's freaking out because before they found the girls and they're just doing the search, he's kind of freaking out, that, he took a trip to the pet store or something like that. And so he asked a close friend, hey, could you lie for me and say, hey, that you drove and we were from this time to this time. And then, of course, that guy came forward and said, yeah, I made up the alibi for him. And so, yeah, it didn't look good for the timing, but, that was really just he's worried about his suspended license and he didn't want to go to jail. And, but for him and then he even said, they asked him, hey, will you say down the hill? And I was thinking about doing a comparison of Logan and BG, but the problem is he doesn't say guys, he only says down the hill. Guys is the best thing to compare something to. Down the hill with BG, it's real quick and real mellow tone that it's not an accurate. I mean, you could probably get anybody if they said down the hill and match it up with down the hill, and it almost sound the same. So guys is a lot more pronounced. It's it's long, whereas down the hill is real quick. It's not really the best to compare to. At least that's what I've learned from doing the audio comparisons as of late. That's why I use guys. So unfortunately, he says just down the hill. But the way he says hill at the end, I don't think it's him because he kind of accentuates hill. It's kind of got the, I don't know, southern accent twang to it. They always use the word twang to it. So I don't think it's him, but we'll play just a little bit more of this train wreck here.
Times and a camo ball cap. 2 days after the murder, Ron Logan's wearing the exact same attire while being interviewed by a reporter. So that's the first thing that cued me in. It's like, oh my gosh, this is his property. The girls were murdered on his land, and he's got the audacity to wear the same clothing at the time of an interview while he's acting completely nonchalant and oblivious to the crimes themselves being committed where he had perfect access to. And what was your second question?
I was just asking about what was compelling to you. Why do you believe that it is actually Ron Logan?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, for starts, was his appearance matched the bridge guy, and then all the evidence that was outlined by not only the FBI, but we have whistleblowers that Chris Todd writes about in his book that came forward to tell us that the only thing that excluded them from going after Ron Logan was simply his age, which we know age is not a disqualifier. Disability is a disqualifier. Just because he's 77 doesn't mean he's not capable of committing a heinous crime like this.
So, Jason, you don't believe he was too old to commit something like this?
No. He was well able to.
Man, I'm disappointed because I love Jensen. Like I said, he's been involved in some cases that were here in Utah and helped out with the newlywed couple. But I'm not on board with that. Your thoughts, Steve?
I'd feel a lot better if the narrative was being driven by someone that didn't have a financial interest in it.
Yeah. But like I said, you went out there and did the experiment. If you want to check out his experiment and his channel, please go check out Steve after the show. Go check him out. Subscribe to his channel. He's covering Delphi. He actually just got back from a trip out there. And he does a lot of experiments like I do. And we even have some possible future plans that we may discuss in a future live show when things fall into place. But yeah, super excited. We trying to do, we're not just covering cases, but we're actually going to try to go out and help solve some of these cases.
One of the most interesting things I see of the search warrants and the articles and the clothing and vehicle processing, if those clothes were exposed and if people don't know what luminol is or processing vehicles for crime, that's part of crime scenes, there is so much technologies out there that if those clothing articles were stained in 6 years, 5.5 years ago, they're still stained to this day. It takes a tremendous amount. You're not going to get it all out. I mean, I did experiments recently that show that, and it's there. And I've still got them sitting here, and whenever I hit them with luminol, it's still there. There's crime scenes have been processed. It's decades old, and when you go in there and you hit it with luminol, the blood spatter analysis and the blood spatter is still there. It's there. If the item has been protected somewhat, the blood spatter and any of the evidence that was there 5 years ago is still there today.
Oh, that's wild. But good for, if a case, needs to be closed, it's nice to know that stuff still stays around.
May not be identifiable for a DNA profile, but it's there. You'll still see the indicators.
Yeah. Big says, we don't know if RL has involvement, but we know from law enforcement that RA is BG and he killed the girls. Everything else is speculation. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's the probable cause. Everything else from this point on, the court stuff, the judges, all this stuff that's happening, that's is all going to be sorted out in the courts. At the end of the day, it's going to be those 12 jurors and what evidence and how they are, whatever that verdict is, that's going to be the closing factor.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of things about the search warrant. I've been reading in chat. A lot of people have been asking about Ron Logan, the differences between Ron Logan's search warrant and the one that would have been at Allen's residence.
Oh, wow.
And I challenge any of you to go and look and pull the Ron Logan warrant and look around your house and see what they couldn't take from your house. They virtually can take everything from your house with what's listed in the Ron Logan warrant. Your vehicle, your hair, your fibers, your pet hairs. There's fingerprints, body fluids. That was a very lengthy and in-depth search warrant at Logan's. So even if they copy and paste it, they would get, like I said, I've looked at it and read it and looked around my house and said, what would they not be able to take? Your photography, your computers, your cell phones, anything that has a digital signature, they could take 5.5 years ago, and they can take it now. And I know people think that there may have been certain things that changed, and they may be looking for certain things that have changed. But that was a very comprehensive search warrant from 5.5 years ago.
Yeah. Danger J says, if they don't have DNA, in my honest opinion, this case won't be solved. I think they have DNA. I've always felt it in my bones. And I do think this will be solved. What do you think on the DNA side of it?
Oh, I've never doubted there's DNA. It's just whether or not you find it. I've worked cases where you had to send things into a crime lab multiple times before the DNA of a suspect was found. So it's not like you can just look at an article. It has to be a very specific part of that article of clothing, or otherwise it has to be tested to find that mixture of DNA. It's just, but once it's found, it's there.
Right. So just to kind of recap here, and we'll see if we can answer a couple questions. So kind of the first part of the show is, what can we learn from the whole sketch mess, the two sketches. And I just feel like, with each case being solved, there's always something that we could learn, either as a community and law enforcement. And I feel in this case, maybe both. And in my personal opinion, I felt like, with this particular case, you have an old guy, and I say old guy because there's a young guy sketch, so I have to say old because people get after me like they're like 40 is not old. I totally agree, 40 is not old, but I have to say old when I'm gonna say young. So just bear with me. But so with an older guy sketch and a younger guy sketch, and they should have, in my opinion, have done an age progression with the young guy sketch. And if you missed the first part of the show, I'll show you why I feel like this could have probably helped and what else could we do in the future. And so here's the age progression of the young guy sketch. Let's make it right there. So all I did was shorten the hair, added a full mustache onto it. I should have left the blue eyes out, but I did just put the blue eyes in there. But then I just added some crow's feet. Did not change anything else about the young guy sketch. Just added some facial hair, shortened the hair, added a little bit of gray into it. Then I felt like they could also do, especially for males, they could do, kind of like a Mr. Potato Head where they can do with facial hair, without, because we can easily, disguise ourselves and change. And then accessories, because here is the age progression with the hat on. And like I said, I was doing this without him next to me. Obviously, I did not alter anything of the young guy sketch other than just adding facial hair and then the accessory, and then of course the blue eyes. But other than that, and some crow's feet, and it's a pretty darn close look to, Richard Allen. Or if you put on a hat, you, Steve, as I said. But no, it's but yeah, and then just go a little bit further into this, and shout out to a guy on Reddit because we kind of had the same idea. Is that we could also expand on this where you have the original composite sketch, and then you could click on some attachments that give you a little bit more details about what the witness described and how confident they were when describing the sketch. So they weren't really sure on the hair, so they were 20%. They knew he was a white male, so that's 100%. The nose, that's what kind of stuck out to him the most, is the long nose. So they're pretty darn confident that he had a long nose. And so that way, us as a public that want to help future cases can go, okay, I see the sketch, but they're not so much sure on the hair, so I'm not going to put too much stock into the hair. So if I come across this short guy with this long nose, I'm going to kind of pay attention to him. Instead of when you come across a guy with short hair, you're like, well, this guy doesn't have mid curly hair, so that can't be him. Thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, like I said, there's so many variables. There's always some truth of what, when you sit down with a witness who saw an individual, they're going to try to do the best they can do. And they're describing what they saw or what they remember. And so there's truth within that sketch. How accurate it is from a random person they met and saw for anywhere from 1 second to 30 seconds or a minute. And what else was going on in the world at the time other than that one person. So there's always a resemblance, or maybe certain parts of it that might be may look like a relative of the actual person. So sketches, I've never really liked them, and they've been confusing. And this case is absolutely proves that, of how confusing and misguided best intentions can sometimes take you down certain paths.
Chris Moyer, hey buddy. All I can say, I love Karen Lee, and our mods do an amazing job, and it's not easy being a mod, so just keep that in mind. I know you've been asking about where is Tony Kline. Honestly, I don't live in Delphi, but I guarantee you, if he has any of the slightest possibility of being involved, I guarantee you they're watching him and know every single move. Would you agree, Steve? If they think that he has any involvement at this point,
Yeah, I can tell you that he's free.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you this. He's a free American, as far as I know right now. I hadn't heard any news of anyone being arrested. And with that right, he can be anywhere in the United States he wants to. Now, he may be under close surveillance anywhere in the United States that he wants to be. But if they have anything linking or suspect linking him to the crime, he will more likely be under certain type of surveillance. But he's free, and he can be anywhere he wants to by our Constitution right now.
Yeah. But if they have any inkling that he's a part of this, I guarantee you they, with the FBI assisting in this, and now especially with everything kind of, now it's the next chapter. Now it's getting them all rounded up. If there is an extra, somebody else is involved. I mean, my bet would be Kegan, and maybe Tony might have known something after the fact. I don't think Tony was there, but I don't know. I think, it's going to come down to Richard and Kegan, in my opinion. And we'll see kind of where it's at. I think that they are afraid to let the info out without having crossed DNA test. Maybe they already have crossed it. DNA test.
I'm hoping that they have reverse engineered the DNA, and if they've got anything at the Allen residence that came from the crime scene, such as DNA from Libby or Abby, then that will be a sealed deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, she should not be. Oh, never mind. She said she shouldn't be mad. No, she's a good mod. Like I said, you guys, it's not easy for the mods, especially when you got over 1,000 people. It's not easy. Thank you so much, Freya, for the 449 Euro super sticker. Just checking the last few things. If you might have a question for Steve or me, we can go for another 10 minutes here. Danger Dave says Ari is 5'7" to 5'9". Ooh. Oh, maybe 5'7". He don't look much taller than 5'7". I would think he's 5'4" to 5'6". I think he's a little bit taller than 5'4". I think he's been probably going a little couple of inches, to float under the radar.
I know on the they got the picture of the that has the measurement bars in there. The only problem I have with the measurement bars is that they don't match up with the concrete block that's behind it. The concrete blocks, including mortar joint, is an 8-inch block. So when you look at that picture, you'll see that the measurements are not accurate by his height grid that's alongside his picture. So that is a you had it in there somewhere at some point, but anyway, so you really can't go by that. Those are 2-inch markings because they're off a little bit.
Yeah. Just reading the chat here. Do you think the reason Richard Allen caught was from the original witness that gave the description? Ooh, I don't think so. That would be really
yes,
terrible odds. But I think personally it's the developments of the Kline thing, but that's just my speculation. Especially with his recent charges being dropped and amended.
That probable cause is going to lay it out exactly why.
Yeah. Ooh, Chris and Steve, do you think it's possible law enforcement set up a ruse with KK to flush out Richard Allen?
Wouldn't be the first time law enforcement's done something like that.
Wow.
There's a lot of different ways in interrogations because law enforcement during interviews and things, they can lie to a suspect, and they don't. There's certain things they can't lie about, but they most certainly can tell you that we have evidence of we have your fingerprints, or we have certain things where we have a direct connection with you and so, and if that individual agrees, that individual agrees.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions. Do you think Richard Allen walked to the crime scene through the woods? I'll answer first. I definitely think that's a great possibility. If he was alone.
Yeah, that was, but it still brought up an interesting point that if he went there that day with intent, what drove him with the intent to murder? And why would he set up for that purpose if he was targeting Libby and Abby specifically? And we're going to be getting at the sealing of the search warrant and the arrest warrants are going to tell us all of these answers. But because what made him target them either as potential victims of some type of assault or as possibly being victims of some type of homicide situation. But because you don't go and kidnap two children without a place to take them. And so, he had to, and that's what, when I went there and looked at that location, I know that the private drive played a huge part in the case that has to be looked at. What was going on that private drive? Was there a vehicle there? What happened there? Because we know that he took them from the top of the bridge and he said down the hill. And is that the section where he was meaning to get to the private drive? So there had to be something significant about that private drive from my law enforcement experience.
Yeah, because what many may not realize is, yes, this private drive is the driveway for this residence here. It's kind of unique because it comes right under the bridge and it comes out and it funnels out. Shift back over here.
Right there, where the end of that field is where the gate is.
Okay, you tell me where. Here?
Yeah, right there. I drove and turned around and parked right there, just right past that field there. You can go down there past those houses and there's no trespassing. There's a gate if you're going down that private drive. And then we came back out.
Interesting.
We came back out that way, and once again went back past Alan's house, but we didn't know it at the time, and past Abby's family's house, and because there's a lot of connections in that part of with one of the victims only being, a few thousand feet away from the suspect. Because just to the right of there at that intersection is when you start getting to some of Abby's family.
That's so surreal. Fixels, yeah. I'll see if Chris wants to team up on a video. We can lay it out for everyone. Steve too. Okay. We'll get together. Yeah, email me. Let me know what you got in mind, because I didn't get to see the context of that. But get caught up here. What reasons would Richard Allen have connect to Kegan Kline? I think the big one would be some kind of, Richard Allen did before 2006 live kind of north towards Peru and those areas. Maybe he met up with Tony and or Kegan. I mean, Kegan would have been not young, but young. Trying to think what old he is, but maybe that could have been start of some kind of a distance connection, or maybe they met recently before the murders and was sharing information,
or just access to the Anthony Shots account. There's a lot of
yep,
could be that simple.
Yeah, kind of took the long scenic route explaining that, but yes, pretty much. Okay, so if you just got in here, also the other thing that we learned is Indiana has a rule that they don't have cameras in the courtroom, but there are a few counties that are changing that. And one of them is Allen County, which is kind of weird because it's Richard Allen. Just thinking about that. Which is up northeast. So if the trial is held somewhere in Allen County, there is a possibility that the trial would be televised, but it just depends on where. You're welcome, Lady M, Chris and Steve. Thank you for an awesome show. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch the show, and a special shout out to Stacy. Let me make sure. Yes, to Stacy for the $50 Venmo. That helps so much. If you're new to the channel, not only do we cover true crime, but we actually go out and help. I just got done about a week and a half ago. I was out in the desert for 5 days looking for Dylan Rounds. That was my 6th time going out there and looking for him, and out there with the drone and doing a bunch of stuff. I was actually working with EquiSearch. I can't really say much more than that because it's still they're still doing stuff with that trip that we just came back from. But yeah, so like I said, we do a lot more than that. Same with Steve. Steve just got back from Delphi, and he's also got some projects that we may come together with. But that's something that we'll discuss more down the road. But yeah, we're trying to do more than just cover true crime. We're trying to make a difference. And as you can see behind Steve, make a difference. There you go, buddy. Perfect timing. So, final thoughts, Steve.
I'm glad that we're here where we're at right now. I'm glad that we have at least an individual that we have probable cause against that is behind bars. I'm looking forward to this case going forward. I'm looking forward to as this crazy court issues get figured out and everything gets handled. And everybody just needs to relax and sit back because it will get sorted out. Everything will come and everything will be done. It'll be done by the book. And whatever at the end of the day is found out, we'll all have to live by. But I'm looking forward to what information's coming out. It's going to be an interesting ride.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't heard my, I did an audio analysis. I've done 2, where I take Richard Allen and I take some words. If you haven't checked that out, check out my playlist. I have a Delphi playlist and I actually have a Richard Allen playlist. And I compare his audio with the guys down the hill. I really match guys and some of the words he says, and I think it's pretty darn close. So if you haven't checked that out, after the show, check it out. But especially if you're not subscribed to True Crime Web, I would suggest doing that. He is an amazing guy. We'll probably be doing some projects down the road, and it's always an honor to work with Steve. So
same here, sir.
Steve, yeah,
same here, sir. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be here tonight. I appreciate your community, your chat. They're awesome. And just put me in the back room, and I'll see you after the show.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, bud.
All right.
All right, guys. Just let me double check, make sure I covered everything. And like I said, thank you guys so much for the donations. Let's make sure everything's good. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I lost the name. But yeah, thank you, Karen, for the donations. And Stacy as well. Stacy, you're awesome. So you guys, like I said, not only do we cover it, but we use the money that comes in from donations. We put it right back into searching for the missing. So I'm going to go ahead and play the pet outro. I should have a new pet outro real soon, and then we'll start taking some more requests for the new subscribers that want to have their pets, because we like to feature the pets at the end as everybody's saying goodbye. So all right, guys, so I hope you had a wonderful Sunday. Be safe, and we'll probably see you guys tomorrow. So I love you guys. Make sure I got the right video set up to play. Okay, I do. Okay. All right. See you guys.
Bye.